welcoming this amazing person, beautiful woman, graceful in every aspect. Yes. And the last time I was chanced to be in her space, she left an indelible mark on me, not just me, the young individuals that were here as well. She's an eloquent communicator and a public servant, shaping national narratives with clarity, confidence, and conviction. She is a devout Muslim, yes, clearly. She is also the founder and convener of Alliance for Women in Media Accra, a non-governmental advocacy and welfare group dedicated to improving the visibility and impact of women in media. She's a distinguished award-winning broadcast journalist, formerly with City FM and Metro TV. She is also a member of the Ghana Network of Women's Rights Group, Women Land Rights Advocacy, a member of UN Youth Ghana, and an ambassador for SDG 5 and a menstrual hygiene management ambassador, with appearances on BBC radio and television. I can go on, and I will never stop. You could give me a whole day to give you her bio, and it will not be enough. But she is currently the Deputy Presidential Spokesperson at the Office of the President. With a deep and profound round of applause, let's please welcome Hajia Shamima Muslim.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Madam Chair and our very wonderful, experienced panel members and speakers who have all given us great speeches and inspirations this day. I acknowledge your sacrifice and your pioneering role in giving life to stories of a new generation of young Muslim women who today believe because you did that they too can. Let's give them a round of applause. I wondered whether to deliver a speech or to take us through an exercise. Because the speeches we hear, don't we? The greatest challenge is translating what we hear and learn to shape and guide our choices and our decisions and to make a difference in our lives. Sometimes we assume that it will be easy to be motivated, to be inspired by the stories of others. So when we go home, we have renewed energy and we want to change the world. And then community happens and reality sets in and we go back to factory settings. Not so. So we are going to do this presentation together because there are a number of activities I'm going to invite all of us to do. First of all, I want us in this room, if you have a grandparent who had secular education, kindly stand up. If your grandparent had secular education, as in they went to school, they speak English, please stand up. Grandparents, whether dead or alive, yes, grandparents. Please, are you watching? Don't make noise, let's do it quietly. Grandparent means your father's mom or your father's dad had formal education. Grandparents. Okay. Please, have you seen the numbers? Turn around and have a look. We need to know from where we are starting from to know how far we are yet to go. Grandparents. So it's just a few of us. Perhaps less than 1% of us in this room today. I had no grandparents who attended formal education. So less than 1% of us in this room have no grandparents who had formal education. Kindly take your seat. Second question, if if you had a great-great-grandparent who had secular education, please rise to your feet. Let me sit, because I don't. Great-great-grandparents. None of us in this hall, this auspicious day, had a great-great-grandparent who had formal education. Wow. Now, if you had a parent, dad, mom, alive, dead, who had secular education, please rise to your feet. Wow. Good, respectable numbers. Respectable numbers. Okay, please take your seats. We are making progress, not so. Now, if you had a parent, mother, father, who had tertiary education, that is university, training college, whatever, tertiary education, please stand up. That is also fairly respectable, not so. Please have your seat. If you have a parent, mother, father, who had advanced education, master's, PhD, and above, please take cognizance of the numbers. Yes. Master's, PhD level, the numbers have come down again, not so. So it means many of us, our parents perhaps ended at teacher training or whatever, nursing and whatever. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. Now, this is our reality as a community. Hello, at Kabiru. This is not to make us despondent. This is to show us in clear terms from where the fight must begin. This is to tell us that you cannot afford the liberties, the non-agency of those who are far ahead of you in terms of opportunities that they had. Let me give you another picture. When this whole conversation about Muslim schools and missionary schools came up, and some people's suggestion to a solution was that, well, if you're a Muslim, go to Muslim schools. If you're a Christian, then and you want to go to a mission school, please go to a mission school. The first ever secondary school to be established in Ghana is Infantipim Secondary School in Cape Coast, Kwabuche. Kwabuche is today 149 years old. There are friends you sit in class with whose great-great-grandparents graduated from Kwabuche. It was established in 1876. Now, the first ever secondary school to be established in the entire northern regions then, the northern regions then were the three northern regions combined, was in 1951 by the British colonial authorities. That's the Tamale Secondary School. Are you following? Yes. One is 149 years old, one is a mere 74 years old. So you can understand perhaps why some of you were able to have parents or grandparents who had some level, depending on how old they are. And because we marry early, so you would see that these are perhaps not too old people. Talking about Islamic secular schools. As for Islamic schools, they've been in our communities. Many of us would have had experience. Our great-grandparents, some of them were sheikhs, imams, because they studied the Quran, but they did not have secular education. I was looking out for the first Islamic secular school. And when I Googled it, what I got was T.I. Ahmadiyya Secondary School, AMAS, which was established some 1950, according to what I found from their own page. In 1950, and so and Tamale Secondary School was established in 1951. So even AMAS is about a year older than Tamale Secondary School, so that they are 75 years old. That is the first Islamic secular secondary school. And secondary school is an important part of education. It's a transition that you must make before you qualify for tertiary education, which will then improve your opportunities and your chances in life to participate in the society more, productively and economically. So it's not tenable for us to make the argument that Muslims should attend Muslim schools and Christians attend Christian schools, because the history of educational infrastructure is not the doing of today's Muslims or today's Christians. The history of our educational infrastructure is a construct of colonialism and how the colonial masters decided to lead and operate. So the early educational infrastructure were established along the coast areas, which were their first point of call when they arrived to pillage our natural resources, to pillage our people. Do you get it? So the bars are not equal. And so if you're about to start a race and you're already so far behind, can you slack? Can you slack? Please, I need to hear it. If you slack, it means you have not yet woken up to the reality of where you are in the fight. 21st century Ghana, and as the judge, right? Her lordship, the justice, her ladyship was telling me there are just about 4, and I wanted you to have mentioned these figures. They have just about 4
at the Superior Court.
At the Superior Court, 4 justices.
4 female justices. Yes.
Say it, repeat it again.
So the Superior Court is the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court.
Okay.
So at the Supreme Court, there's none.
There's no female.
We are talking about
females.
There's none. At the Court of Appeal, we are 2. And I think you should change your name to Mariama. She wouldn't agree. She's Mariam Jessie. I'm Mariama Samuel. And then when you go to the High Court, there are 3. And I know them because there aren't many. There is Mariam Sinari. There is Halima El Alawa. And then there is Nabila Abdul. Yes. Yeah. So we are 5. I can even go down to the lower courts. I even know them. Because we are not even up to 20. Right. Both men and women. And we are talking about almost 500 now. Judges and magistrates. We have one, Aliata.
Yes. Yes. And Aliata is a cousin.
Yes. And Aliata is in Kumasi. I know all of them. And then Jana, no. She's not the second court. I'm waiting for her in the high court. Yes. And I'm not saying as if we have men. We don't. There are only 3 men at the Superior Court. There is one at the Supreme Court, Justice Sample. There is another one in the Court of Akhi, Justice Ali Baba Abaturu. And there is one, no, I think High Court, there are 2.
If I was the case, they have 6 now. I saw the last 6.
I'm talking about the guys.
So bottom line.
There is one, he has a Muslim name, he's not a Muslim. So at the High Court,
yes, which is true. Which is true.
Akhi, Osman, and the other is Reza.
Mr. Yusuf,
He is on retirement. I know all of them. So
I think the picture is clear. 21st century Ghana, we speak about rights. We want to be empowered. We say we are citizens. And yet, you are very absent around the policy shaping spaces. You are very absent around what they call the levers of power and influence. You are very absent around the tables of decision making. So all you may be able to do is to lament. And wish and demand, your rights from those who have made the necessary investments. Because you cannot now cry and lament about why history has placed you where history has placed you. Because right now, many of us should know better. And if we know better, we should do better. Because if we see these pictures, and yet within our communities, we are unwilling, unable to make the right and necessary investments in our education or to create social solutions for our problems and expect that somebody will do it as charity for us, and if they don't, then the world must come down. I'm sorry, nobody owes you anything as a community if you're not willing to mobilize as a community and do the right things also for yourselves, whilst you advocate for government to do its bit, as by rights it must do to all citizens. So the ball is in our courts. And those were my preliminary activities. So let me bring you warm greetings from His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama and the entire presidency, and convey the respect and goodwill from the president to every Muslim woman who has gathered here, and extend his admiration also to the Ghana Academy of Muslim Professionals for organizing a forum like this, a forum that brings us together, that celebrates our achievements, because we do have great achievements, but they are not enough, not by a long stretch, and we need to do more. And also to inspire us to want to do more. Today's theme, our stories, our strength, is deeply resonant because it reflects a fundamental truth of our faith, that the journey of a Muslim woman is a journey of honor, of dignity, of perseverance, and of course of divine purpose through all the seasons of life. Allah has reminded us indeed of this transformative power within every believer. And it's a clarion call, really, that Allah will not change the condition of a people unless what? They change what is within themselves. It's a reminder that growth begins from inside, within our hearts, with our intentions, with the knowledge that we acquire, which is compulsory to acquire, and with courage and discipline and consistent action. And Muslim women in Ghana have consistently shown this inner strength, generation after generation. I know not of any woman from the northern regions or from Muslim homes who is not a hard worker, who hasn't been a hard worker, who does not continue to strive every day, engaging in back-breaking activities just to keep the family going. So this afternoon we've heard a lot about what our strengths are, from the stories that define us, even as we evolve to become more of what we can be. And I'll mention a few of what I took from the presentations since morning. At the heart of the stories we heard today is the value and the virtue of resilience, that many Muslim women who have achieved great things in our country today have stories that are sometimes heartbreaking, but as we can also know, The stories don't have to be heartbreaking. You can have a smooth ride to the top. You can have a bumpy ride to the top. But those pathways are littered with life experiences as well. As my sister said, I also come from a large Muslim family, but my journey through education has been a bit easier and pretty straightforward. 2 years ago, when I was invited, was it 3 years ago, to speak when Kamala Harris came to Ghana, I themed my speech, "Why Not You?" And I did indicate that in all of my life, in the spaces that I found myself, I was the minority of the minority of the minority. Whether you're an African or a Ghanaian woman or a northern woman or a Muslim woman, and even with Muslim, I belong to a minority Muslim group. I distilled it to that tiny level. And what that does to your mind in the communities that you found yourself. So from Morning Star, from Feeding to Morning Star to Holy Child and to Legon. At the time I was in Legon, I was in Holy Child in 1995. There were only 2 Muslim girls. Today, the population in Holy Child is over 50. And they have a Muslim patron. They are able to pray today. And those are some of the good examples from some of these mission schools, you know, expanding opportunities to members of their community, and that deserves commendation, even as we try to ask for more. And when you find yourself as a minority, I found very quickly, what do you do with a name like Shamima Muslim, even if you wanted to hide your faith? It is true that not all Muslim names are Muslims. But how do you explain the name Shamima Muslim? So all of my life, my faith has followed me. No matter how, sometimes, because of the circumstances or the environment, I want to hide my belief, it follows me. And I believe it is exactly because of that that I've experienced the sorts of elevation in my life that I have. So even when I didn't want to veil because I needed to feel a sense of belonging, even when my mom would complain incessantly and I'll tell her that, don't worry, when I marry, I'll start veiling fully. Even when I got an opportunity for the first time to come on air, and I had to take a decision then because my heart always agitates. And I always have that spirit of agitation. I always know what I'm supposed to do at any point in time, even though I may not do it, but my spirit will agitate me and I'll know what I'm supposed to do. So I was not veiling every day when I was doing my work in NGO. Nobody knows me. But the day I was asked to come on air, I knew I had to ask a question, an important question. How do I want to present myself to the country? Turning back after I communicate the image the first time I come on television, doing what Muslim women don't do in the media or had not yet started doing in the media, hosting a current affairs talk show. So I had conversations with my mom, with my dad, and I think I was in agreement that if I was going to do that, I should appear like a Muslim woman in a hijab. So I took that proposal to the managers of Metro Television. Unfortunately, even though the MD was a Muslim, he did not agree to the proposition. At the time, there was another sister, Ramana Sharif. She has always been a hijabi. She was presenting great reports, but she was never allowed to read the news in Metro TV, those of you who know Ramana's story, because she insisted to wear her hijab. So I knew about that. And I also knew that this was a very unique opportunity, and I had the capacity to host that program even better than the men who were hosting that program. So when he said that you couldn't wear a veil because it's a secular program and it was being sponsored by secular companies who may not want to be associated with a hijab, I decided I was going to come on air without a hijab. Alhamdulillah, this is how far that decision has brought me. I say that the spiritual journey is an individual journey. We may all profess a faith. We may be Christians, we may be Muslims, but our journey with God is individual. And it will evolve how and when and in what shape we want that journey to evolve. Once we are asking ourselves the right questions, once we are having the internal dialogue, knowing, because I always say that you cannot say you don't know what the teachings are. You can say, however, that this is what Islam enjoins me to do, but these are my struggles in my journey, my spiritual journey. And that it's a question between you and your God. Whether or not you'll be able to do what you're expected to do as a real Muslim before Allah calls you, whether you find your full identity in time, that is you and Allah's journey. And I tell a lot of young girls who are struggling with hijab that I'll be a hypocrite to tell you that I always had a veil on. I didn't always have a veil on. If you are confident to start the journey early, alhamdulillah. What I can tell you, however, is that when I fully embraced my veiling, the escalation of my elevation, in the short period that that elevation happened, trumped all the years that I didn't embrace it. I don't know if you understand me. So yes, I still wake up many nights and I pinch myself, say, are you sure you are a deputy spokesperson to the president of Ghana? I still ask myself, is this a reality? Am I living in an alternate reality? Is this a dream? But it's not a dream, right? It's true. I'm in front of you. You are humans, not so. You are not ghosts. Are you sure that this is not even a dream? How possible can the granddaughter of Alima, who never saw the four corners of a classroom, yet insisted that she will put her daughter, Hajia Rahmat, my mom, to school, who ended as a teacher from teacher training, how could that daughter ever think that she could be more than her mothers or her grandmothers? Did I ever dream that I would be in this position? No. But did I ever know that I won't be a failure? Yes. Because growing up, I did well. I've not been a straight A student because I'm a bit lazy and I have to concede that. So I'm one of those who deceive themselves into thinking that last minute stress makes me learn more. There was a day in Legon that I wrote philosophy paper based on a 1-hour group discussion with 3 friends standing outside the hall. And you know what? Everything I learned that night before, no, it didn't come. The 3 questions I answered were from the conversations, and I managed a B in philosophy, alhamdulillah. So it doesn't have to be as stressful. So if you are disciplined, you can ensure that you are able to excel in your studies. So resilience, as one of the strengths I identified from the stories that were shared, and as many of us are sitting here in this room, have individual stories. And I'm going to tell you why it is important to first identify your individual story and to own your individual story, but why it is better to be interested in the condition of your collective, the condition of the community that you belong. Because no matter how far your individual story goes, you would always be brushed with the brush of the general condition of the community that you belong. In this case, the Muslim community in Ghana. That is the nature of bias. The nature of bias is such that when you are an outlier, those who present the bias against you do not see you as an example of what can be within the community. They rather want to appropriate you to their community. And I was just telling my sister about that. So they will tell you that, oh, wow, you don't speak, you don't look like a northerner. Or, wow, you don't behave like the average Muslim. How do Muslims behave? Differently from how other communities or ethnic groups behave. So that is not a commendation. That is actually an insult. And that is why at all points in time, whatever our individual stories of transformation are, we must come back to ask ourselves, what is the condition of the group that I belong, and how does the dominant narrative, which is often not a positive one, how does that reflect in the biases I keep experiencing, so that even when I am a judge, even when I have gone through the tedious study of law and passed my exams and shown excellence in all the stages of my life, even at that point, somebody could feel that I do not know enough what is good for me, and that I am not allowed to put a veil on my head. So the battle is never going to end anytime soon. Please, do you hear me? Yes. Do you understand what I'm telling you? It's a long battle, and you are ready for it. You're ready with your confidence. You're ready with your excellence. Because of that excellence, today her court is flooded, and that becomes even a burden on her. And today, her hijab doesn't matter anymore, because her confidence and her excellence has has trumped the biases, and even that they will still experience biases. It is still there at the highest level. So my dear sisters, the condition will change if many more women are in those spaces, because there's always strength in numbers. So as many of us as are graduating to become lawyers, as are taking pathways to join the judiciary, as are graduating to become members of the academia, like our chair, as many of us as are becoming entrepreneurs, so we can control capital, because capital is influence. When you have money, you can influence behavior. And you can influence behavior even in halal ways. It's not to use your money to bribe people to do things they are supposed to know and to do for you. So resilience is indeed a strength that many of us, even if we feel we don't have it, should know that it is ingrained in our DNA. Because we come from a stock of women who lived through impossible situations, who went through some of the most harrowing experiences. So that strength is the anchor we must always call upon when they tell you to call upon your ancestors, to know from where you're coming from. The strength that bore you lies within you, waiting for you to connect to it and to rise to your own greatness, to rise to your own, what Martin Luther King calls your own somebodyness, because nobody can believe it for you if you do not believe it. So as you sit here and you nod, and I ever did a training for young girls, we showed them pictures of women who were president or vice president. We brought them from poor communities, Central Region and Sola. After we showed them all of these, photos, and I told them, so do you know that you can be a president? They'll say, yes. Do you know you can be a doctor? They say, yes. When I finished, then I made, it's a few minutes further, and I said, so who wants to be a president? So then I asked them to tell me what they want to be when they grew up. Somebody said, I want to be a midwife. Not that midwife is, wrong, please. So somebody said they want to be a teacher. Someone said they want to be a counselor. Because in their community, that is the reach of the people they relate to. So the photos we show them, they don't relate to those photos. The people don't look like them. They don't speak the language they speak. They don't come from the place that they come from. So how can I dream of wanting to become or achieve what they have achieved? So as we speak about motivation and inspiration, if we don't show the examples, the real life examples, if our communities do not rise to the stories of our mothers, our sisters, and know these stories, and hear these stories, and see these images, and hear their voices speaking from their various fields of expertise, it will come here and go out unless you yourself are deeply an inspirational person. You yourself have been, selected from within your family, that you would also break the generational, struggles of your family, and then you yourself are a self-motivating individual who will come back to the same place that we are in. 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years from now, will be okay that at least I have done secondary education. My mother didn't. Will be okay that, oh, I have tertiary education. My father didn't even have tertiary. Will be okay that I'm working in the public service and I'm not on any management or leadership path, and my sight is not set upon to some one day becoming the head of my unit, to some one day becoming an owner, a manager of a big business. Will be okay just being where we are. And I'm saying that the transformation we want for our community, we cannot achieve it if we are merely okay with being where we are not around the decision-making tables, where we are not able to communicate our achievements in humility, not in arrogance. I asked my aide, Marijana, to search the internet for various programs, seminars, awards, conferences, speaker profiles of many conferences in Ghana. Sticking to Ghana, I asked her to look for women award schemes where they would name 100 most influential women in Ghana, maybe 100 women businesses or business owners in Ghana. I wanted to see the visuals. Marjana is here. When you look at the profiles, and she went back like even 8 years, hardly, unless it is a religious program or a Muslim women program, hardly would you see our Muslim women being platformed. And it is essential to be platformed because platforming is visibility. Visibility is a communication of excellence and achievement and acknowledgement and reward. So if they are speaking about SMEs, in which our Zongo communities have the most women in the small to medium scale enterprises, undoubtedly, no one can argue about that. I say take the morning economy in Ghana, the morning economy around cocoa, around wache, around all of those northern mills. It is powered by women from within our community. No one. But where is the data? Who is gathering this data? Who is showing the world this data? So if they are organizing a conference of women-owned businesses, should Kubash not be on the panel of one of those conversations? Can you, with good conscience, say that some of the individuals we have seen have had the kind of journey that Kubash had sharing with us? How the strengths and the lessons of selling whilst young, somewhere in Obuasi, translated to a spirit, consistent spirit of entrepreneurship throughout her entire life. The barrier you need to break that you can be what you want to be in every space that you find yourself and take opportunity. So if you're an entrepreneur, her mindset is that you don't have to complete an MBA to start a business. And that's the mindset we actually need. People who believe, who actually start something with courage, with nothing, who build upon it. So the value that a Kubash can have in the conversation around the table of managing small to medium scale enterprises cannot you cannot even estimate that value. So where are the kobashes on all of these platforms? My sisters, as you know it, docs, there are very few. How many times would we see doctor and engineer? Look, math. And I even heard a few of you say you are studying math. Somebody came around. Who is it who said they are studying math? Raise your hand. Please get up. Math. When I heard math, I used to shiver. And, so when I went to Holy Child, they gave me elective math. I knew I was going to fail in elective math. But I ended up with a B. Mathematics. And that we have Muslim women. In fact, it's not even surprising. Because have you gone to Hajjia and bought Wache 20 cedis, Talia 5 cedis, meat 5, by the time you finish, she has given you the total of your bill. Please, what kind of reading can give you that skill? What kind of reading can ever give you that kind of computational skill? Today, parents have to go and pay for abacus, for their children to be able to say 1 + 1 + 2 + 3 + 5. My grandmother would do that computation she didn't learn any abacus. Please, do you get the point I'm trying to communicate? I'm saying that inherent in our experiences are skills that if we had the benefit of education, are just going to strengthen and elevate us. And when we find ourselves in those fields, my sisters, my brothers, my big sisters, we must put ourselves out to those platforms for those visibility. So you can imagine how many years ago was it that we had a female Muslim engineer working in this country and no media has consistently platformed her. Because the assumption is that Muslim women don't do these things. You can't find Muslim women in these areas. Architecture. Even Dr. Kra, maybe they are general, whatever doctors. When they are speaking, so it must be someone who has encountered them personally, knows of their expertise, who will, around a decision-making table, remember to say, there's Dr. Tanko, she's a pediatrician at Ridge. Or even parents that are business, people or leaders in different companies who have brought their children to be cared for by her. But when they are looking for pediatricians to speak on topics at conferences, will not remember to recommend the name of the person that heals their child. That is the name, that is the extent of what cognitive bias does. I can relate to you in this space, but I cannot see you in this other space. Oh, I see what you're doing here, but who knows? Can you really do it if I move you into another place? So it's time to stop waiting and to start taking by ourselves. And now we have many, many examples of women in our communities, in our homes, in our families who are achieving great things. It is our duty to project what they do, to celebrate them. And I'm telling you, perhaps I'm here because of the position I'm in. And I don't deceive myself about that. If I wasn't in this position, I wouldn't be the keynote speaker at such a function, because when I look at the collective experience of all these individuals, I beg your pardon, I'm partially left-handed, so I do this a lot, so forgive me. If I look at the experience of all my mothers and my sisters, they outweigh my experience. That is because of position, and it is political position. And even though I am honored about it, I am not arrogant about it. So it means that it is possible for all of us to be able to rise to different levels. And when God gives us those opportunities, we must use those opportunities in the best way possible to uplift the image of our community. Let me finish up by mentioning the other strengths I had beyond resilience. Community-oriented, and I think I've even highlighted some of it. So the first speaker when I joined her spoke about living in family homes and what that kind of challenge if you see it as a challenge or you see it as an opportunity to hone some skills. Because living in a family house teaches you patience, teaches you negotiation skills, teaches you compassion, and teaches you how to fight. Because in the world, yes, you must learn how to fight. You must learn how to fight well, fight fair, and move on after the fight. Because there are many fights in a family house. Fights within rivals, between wives of brothers and children, and all kinds of, you can see every shade of human nature, of every community that you will meet along your way and career in life. Because many of you are in rooms with roommates from different backgrounds and different characters. You may see the representation of those characters from persons in your own household, and you have dealt with them before, so you can smell them from far. Do you understand? So living in a communal home, as many of us come from, teaches us a resilience of a different kind that colleagues we may come from who live in just mother, father, children household may not have benefited from. And so you are way ahead of them in problem solving if you understand that you actually have that inherent skill. Because a matter comes quickly, because you have been exposed to it so many times, you should know how to handle it, and you should be confident in the knowledge that you have. So we are mostly community-oriented, and our faith emphasizes compassion, empathy, and service to others, and that is what many of us grew up knowing. Then the strong family values. They are not supposed to be a disadvantage if you have strong family values. You're not supposed to be a weak woman. I took 10 years of my life from work. I resigned from City FM and Metro TV and focused on family. 10 good years of my life, and I had my 4 children in that space of 10 good years. Are there moments where I felt depressed? Yes. Were there moments where I looked at how my colleagues were now doing and going far in the media and wondering, why did I take this decision? Yes. But was I idling? No. In those spates of years is when I also had the idea to form Alliance for Women in Media, because I understood that many women in media, when they took time off to have kids, find it difficult to come back. So that experience of mine is what birthed the Alliance for Women in Media Africa. And we did great things in that period of time. Within my time, I was not working for anybody, and yet we're able to use our collective skills to do a lot of great advocacies. And in my most wildest imagination, I wouldn't have thought that a comeback would be in politics the way that I transitioned into politics, and how participating in the campaign would bring me this far. And so I tell you, when you do get an opportunity, grab that opportunity. And when you grab that opportunity, show how excellent you can do a task, and leave the rest to the hands of the Almighty. And so that sacrifice has today paid off in multiple folds that I couldn't have imagined. In my 10-year stay from the media, I did get a number of invitations to come back to the media. TV3 was one of those invitations to host their key points. And when I told the managers that, well, now I veil fully, it was a problem for them, and they didn't invite me to host that program. And guess what? I got pregnant with my last born just after they had even turned me down, which means it was not, God hadn't planned that I was to come back to the media. I got pregnant, and a few months later, I got a call from their radio station saying that, they were considering me for a radio. So radio, they are not supposed to show. So they are okay for me to be on radio without with my hijab, but they are not okay for me to be on their primetime TV with my veil. Alhamdulillah, today TV3 allows Aisha to read the news with her head scarfed. It's little progress, but it's some progress, isn't it? And we are seeing more of those experiences. And the last strength I had was, yes, I was talking about is the strong family values, where we actually prioritize family and community and recognize the importance of nurturing future generations. So these are some of the strengths I had in many of the presentations from my colleagues. And these are my questions now to all of us. And I'll entreat us to take our phones and write some of these questions as I wrap up. So we have seen where we are as a community of Muslim women living in Ghana. So my first question to us is, what is our identity? Who are we really? Who are we? Have we answered that question? To answer that question, you must answer who you are first. Who do you think you are on this life journey? And how much of your faith as a Muslim woman defines your values and how you choose to present yourself? Where we are, we have seen it. We may encourage ourselves that the numbers are increasing, but they are not increasing at the rates that can give us the transformation that we need, where being a Muslim woman wearing veil would be so accepted as a norm because of the great things Muslim women are doing and communicating those same great feats and successes. Where do we want to be? Where do we want to be as Muslim women in Ghana? And that must also be answered as to where you want to be. What are your career goals? What are your ambitions? In the next 5 years, where do you see yourself? Those of you who are in school, where do you see yourself? Those of you who are graduating, those of you who are in various fields, where do you see yourself? And what do we have to do now in the next 5 years as GAMP, as individuals, and as a collective? The reason why we must answer the identity question is, when you are a group that faces a common discrimination, it is suicidal that you yourself become discriminatory towards each other. It means we are not consistent in the values we respect and espouse. So it does not lie within any of us to begin to judge other Muslim denominations. If we are Muslims, we are Muslims. And when the discrimination comes, it does not point to Al-Sunnah or Tijaniya or Ghana Muslim Mission or to Ahmadiyya. It brings all of us together and all of you, because as you're wearing your beautiful face, I've not seen Tijaniya written on your forehead. So when you enter a space, if that space is biased, you will face the same cognitive bias. Expressed, covert, overt, you would experience it irrespective. What it means is that if we don't recognize that we are seen as of the same identity, we'll fight battles that we'll never win. Because when it matters the most that we combine our forces and make the necessary demands for the progress of our community, and that is where a lot of the problems within the Muslim community, and we must be honest with ourselves, we are not as united a front as we should be as a minority faith group, as we are often reminded on a daily basis. But we are a critical mass, and we know that a critical mass that organizes, that mobilizes, that is consistent, can defeat anything that comes their way. And so today, as we go back, let's look at our own internal biases against each other. Let's tune down those internal biases. Let's see our commonality, our common humanity, our shared experience, and let's bond over those common experiences and let's get to work. Through education, through mentorship programs, through supporting each other, please stop the unnecessary beefing on social media. Please, as young Muslim women, stop the unnecessary fights on social media. To what end? And stop ganging up and encouraging people who are engaged in fights on social media that they shouldn't be engaged in. Because that is not the way of Islam. We are supposed to be mirrors to each other. If your friend is engaged in a useless fight on social media, it is your duty to try to use the word of Allah to get her to stop, not to encourage her. Please, do you get what I mean? So as we go out and go back, let's remove the distractions on our life. Let's share knowledge. Let's share opportunities. Let's support each other's businesses. Let's minimize envy and jealousy. Let's minimize vicious gossip. Let's stop spreading unnecessary rumors. Even if you know something of your sister that is not in good taste, it is not your duty to do what? Spread it. If you find that your sister is down and already embarrassed, it's not your duty to share that video or to share that audio. It is not the way of Islam, and it's not the way of people who know where they should be going, who are not yet there. So once again, thank you. Well, I hope we hear, we listen, and we act. It is my prayer that we will act on these things, because, my dear sisters, if we're able to do that, it will be great for us, because we do know the beauty, we have it in abundance. The intelligence. Many of you manage school with weekend makaranta, even in your adult stages. Some of you are still going for advanced. That kind of knowledge you acquire is not, and you would see it if you're able to understand what Quran can lighten up even in your secular education. Look at all the people who spoke. They were actually A students, and there are many more A students in our midst. And you must be confident in your intelligence. You're beautiful, you are intelligent. The world is yours for you to claim if you imbibe confidence and self-belief and you put in the work. And that work requires skills building. And many of you feel shy to speak in public. It was in the university that I was able to build my confidence in speaking, because I volunteered at Radio Universe, and then I went into student politics. I was sheltered like many of you. I never knew that I could ever do radio. Somehow God just pushed me to Radio Universe, and because of doing radio, I built a confidence and I started engaging in student politics. And so at General Assembly meetings, I also get up, I'll also engage in debates, I'll build skills. You cannot say you want to be a good public speaker, and when they call you to volunteer to speak in public, you refuse. Do it scared, but do it all the same, because you cannot read communication skills. You practice communication skills. Please, do you hear me? And many of you are chatterboxes within your friend groups, that some of you are comedians, you are closet comedians. You have so many multiple talents, but some of you are great conversationalists. You can hold conversation for hours. Please tell me I'm lying. Some of you are the comedians of your friendship groups. Yet step out of that group and I'll give you a mic. You start shivering in your boots. Why? What? Ask yourself why. What makes me? It's because you think you don't belong in that space to express yourself authentically in that space. Why? Because you think you look different. Why? Because you think you didn't attend the same schools. Why? Because you think you didn't have the same social upbringings. they also have the same kinds of anxieties. I can assure you of that. They also have the same kind of anxieties. I see TikTok now, and the number of Muslim women on TikTok doing all kinds of things, some productive, some not so productive. Imagine if you were to tune it a little bit. The talents, the skills you're showing, but be minded that you're still first and foremost a Muslim woman. And you cannot pretend you do not know the teachings of your faith. So don't pretend you don't know it. Accept that this is not how I am supposed to do it. But the weaknesses of my mind and body makes me fall into this temptation. Even as you're expressing yourself in ways that are not Islamic, you must pray that God gives you and brings you to light. You must make those prayers. Please, you understand? Don't pretend that it is okay, because some of the things we are seeing on social media, some of the exposures we are seeing, some of the hair exposures we are seeing, some of the dress codes we are seeing cannot be described as being Islamic, and we must not pretend about that. So at least accept what you're doing and still pray alongside that in due time, Allah will bring you closer to His way of doing things, so that the pressures of society does not detract you too far away from your path to Jannah. So once again, know that there are opportunities for women in politics, and for Muslim women in particular in politics. There are about only 2 or 3 Muslim women in parliament, a 275-member parliament. At the district assembly level, we can come up to 2% of women who won their district level elections. In fact, less than 1% of those who won were women. So there is opportunity to come into governance, into politics, and you must not be fearful of it. If you want to be it, start now. Start with student leadership. Start with student politics. Start with, your community leadership, your mosque leadership. Help out, organize, speak, MC, give a vote of thanks, build your leadership, prepare and wait. And if it's within your line, when the time comes, Allah will open the doorway for you. There's opportunities for women in banking. Today, a lot of Muslim women are in banking. Ghana has broken the glass ceiling in banking and telecommunications by having had female CEOs of various banks in Ghana. None of them as yet has been a Muslim woman, even though we have a lot of Muslim women and a lot of Muslim rich bankers. So even if you're a retail banker, a relationship manager, money sits in our Muslim community. Money sits in Makola, money sits in Mamobi and Nima. Millions of money that me have not seen before as a politician sits in the shops of many of our mothers and our aunties. And I'm saying that if some of these monies are finding their ways into the banks, who are their relationship managers? Are they not our Muslim sisters or brothers? Why are our Muslim sisters in the bank not, making the target enough that will fast track them to management, to branch managers, and possibly to heads of different banking units, and ultimately to CEOs of banks? So I'm saying that it is time for a Muslim woman to also break the glass ceiling to become the first Muslim woman manager of a commercial bank, even if it's a state bank. Say takbir to that. We need Muslim women in finance. I know a lot of our Muslim women are in the finance sector, private finance. Deloitte and Touche, I've met a number of them at some previous events. They are there. We must see them and we must hear them. GAMP, please find them. When you find them, you to put their photos on social media. Please don't cede the social media space to all the other things that are not reflective of the growth of the community. You know them. You know where they are. You have their profiles. International Women's Day next March, I want to see the profile of great Muslim women achieving great things across different sectors on social media. When you see it, what are you going to do? Like it, and then what? Comment. What are you going to do? Like, share, and comment. Agreed? That's a deal, right? So imagine if you're doing that. Who should make us trend? My sisters, who owes us the trends? We must make ourselves trend. And let's make ourselves trend for the right reasons. Is it not better to trend for the right reasons than the wrong reasons? So 8th March, International Women's Day, GAMP has promised to do a countdown to industrious Muslim women professionals so that you can see their pictures. You can read their stories. If we can even video some of them in small TikTok videos, we should do that. Visit them, visit Doc at her office as a day in the life of Doc. Let's see what she does. Let's see the number of people who come, visit justice in her courts, and let's see her working, and let's project those stories. We need that. Ghana needs a lot of women in the private sector. We need 1,000 more Kubashes. In fact, this is Kubashi's veil. She's my veil plug. I buy a lot of my veils from her. That is true. So patient. She will get me to buy things I've not planned to buy. That one, I don't like it. That one, I don't like it. And I need a lawyer to help me in that particular case. Do you see? So, Kubash, please, I don't like that. When I say I don't have money, oh, it's okay, Sashama, you take it. You pay later. What is that? And then I'll run up a bill. So we need more of Kubash, and the many more of us, especially now, doing all kinds of small businesses. So if you know about your sister doing a small business, a catering business, a food business, technology, link us. The reason why wealth stays within the Jew community is because of that formula. The wealth must live in the community. If there's anything a Jew wants to do, they will first look for another Jew who can do that. If they cannot find it, they will look for a Jew who is married to somebody else who can do that. If they cannot find it, so the wealth stays in the community. That's the same thing we must do. Even if you don't like somebody, but the person is producing something you like, for the growth and sustenance of the community, give them business. Like their businesses, share their businesses for no reason. You don't have to know them personally to want to be able to support their businesses. And we need a lot of women in academia. Right now, across many universities are female vice chancellors. Dr. Rabiatu, not be so. Female vice chancellors. Legon now has the highest number of women. They have a female vice chancellor, female chair of council. The registrar is female. None of it is a Muslim or a northern woman. But we are having a growing number of northern and Muslim women in our universities who are growing. So what we need to do is to ensure that they have sets in their vision to progress towards those positions so that someday they too can become. There's a Muslim woman from Upper West who has, I think just today or yesterday, been made, she's the Hila Liman University of Technical University. She is the first female, and she's Muslim, vice, chancellor of that university. If you go onto social media, you'll find it. You can give her a commendation. So there's opportunity. I'm telling you all the places you can be the first, not only in your family, but the first in Muslim woman to break the glass ceiling so that you can begin to set ambitious targets towards that. So in academia, there is space for you to do that. In healthcare, the same way, there's opportunity for you to break glass ceilings. In general education, we have a lot of women who are Muslim women teachers. They even have an association. They have quite a lot of numbers. So we want many of them to become headmistresses of school, to become district education officers, to become regional education officers. Opportunity exists in all of those things. And general public and civil servants, we want many more Muslim women who are today finding career pathways in the civil service to have it as their ambition to become chief directors of the various ministries. Because that's when your influence expands. That's when you're in a position to help more people and to give opportunities to more people. Otherwise, every day, you will go to people with a begging bowl, begging for favors, begging for jobs, begging for opportunities, and sometimes they would be requiring you to do more than beg. They will be requiring you to do back in the ground, opportunity in a hand. We don't want to get there. If you don't get it, forget about it. So, my dear sisters, President John Dramani Mohammed's government is also executing a Resetting Ghana agenda. In that Resetting Ghana agenda, he has announced a number of affirmative action programs that are supposed to target Muslim women. And so we must be ready, we must be available, and we must take advantage of some of these programs. So, for example, for economic empowerment and livelihood policies, we have the Ejumawura program. This year they will roll out again. We have the youth employment agencies. Please put yourselves out. We have the Women's Entrepreneurship Support Fund. We have the Informal Sector Transformation Program. And we also have agricultural support for women specifically. In terms of our broad social dignity and rights programs, our affirmative action law, which has been passed, is supposed to ensure a 30% representation of women across public sector by next year, and then in the next couple of years, 50-50 parity. So if you, the Muslim women, don't push yourselves into the pool, when it comes to the appointment-making time, will you be there? You won't be there. One of the challenges we have had with the constitution of boards are with the institutional representatives. So we have a few boards made up of only men. And when we made the protests as women at the presidency, it came back to us that those institutions that are supposed to nominate representatives have only men occupying those positions. So we end up having only men in boards. It's the same thing with the affirmative action. So if we're going to make appointments and we need a certain competence, and you are not in the pool that we need, it means Muslim women will not find representation, even though there's an affirmative action that has been announced for Muslim women. So we must get ourselves ready and prepare ourselves. So we also have the Zongo Development and Community Renewal Program. So within your find where they are, and when you have programs and ideas that you require support, know where to go for those support. Those of you in the digital space, you would know that we are rolling out a national digital literacy campaign. We also have the 1 million coders program this year. Again, they're going to recruit more trainees. We also have the ICT innovation hubs in Zongo communities. So there are a few Zongo, Zongo-based organizations that are often giving grants to run some of these tech programs in the communities. Please be proactive. Look out for those programs. Sign yourself up. Your future is in your hands. So, our lived experiences, they are mirrors that show us who we are, where we are, and where we can go. And they are maps that must guide us towards what we can become. May Allah honor every Muslim woman who is here, who has journeyed through trials and tribulations, and who is overcome those trials and tribulations, and who has built resilience to overcome that which still lies ahead of her. May He bless the work of your hands. Whatever your hands finds to do, may Allah flourish it. May He meet the desires of your heart and the future of your children and our children. May He find you supportive, kind, compassionate partners, spouses who will not be threatened by the light you carry or the dreams you have, but who will become fertilizers to support the growth of your businesses and your ambitions. May He make our stories as sources of strength, not despair, for ourselves and for our generations yet unborn. I wish you all the best, and I thank you for sitting through my very long, rambling speech. I appreciate your kind attention.
Thank you so much. We truly appreciate your time. Yes, honestly. Yes. The escalation of my elevation. I'll be using this. I'm sorry, but I'll be borrowing it. In fact, I don't know if I'll need a copyright on that. Is there a copyright on it? Yes. I'm going to use that. Let's all say the escalation of my elevation. The escalation of my elevation. But now it is formally mine. Thank you so much. As I said, her intellect is so profound. I mean, her humility is undoubtedly contagious. Yes. Thank you so much. She has essentially given a highlight of what all our guests, our speakers, and our panelists have shared and discussed today. And she has highlighted the terminologies that was frequently used. That's the resilience, hard work, faith, self-motivation especially. Alhamdulillah.